This is Part 2, Episode 61. Heaven Wave City. Qin Mu and the rest had a slight change in expression. They felt they had just escaped from the wolf pack and into the tiger's den. General Xiaoyi smiled. Great mountain sects, ghost transferring god dispatching runes command is indeed powerful. Heaven Wave City is also attacking the opposite shore, therefore if there's a devil god assisting them, there would be much lesser casualties in Heaven Wave City. Lin Ding, you'll follow them. That officer immediately acknowledged. General Xiaoyi waved his hand and let the army be on their way. Qin Mu and the rest bowed, and when the army had passed by, that officer Lin Ding smiled. Junior brothers, let us head for Heaven Wave City. Qin Mu's expression remained unchanged and said, please, Officer Lin. Lin Ding smiled. Your great mountain sect has done a meritorious deed, and even though there are only a few of you left, you could still summon Devil God forward to assist us in battle. You guys will definitely re-establish your sect and shine. Even though you are still quite young, I admire this kind of miraculous ability. Qin Mu laughed out loud with a face full of glory. We're indebted to Officer's lucky words. That's right, Officer. I see you're not that old yet, your cultivation is high. May I dare to ask what is Officer's realm now? Peak of 7 Stars realm, however, it's always hard to advance to Celestial Being realm. Lin Ding sighed ruefully. Celestial Being is hard, and now that the world is in turmoil, we will have to enforce justice on behalf of heaven, to clean up the laws and discipline of the Imperial Court, to get rid of Imperial Preceptor, that renegade. This is a chance, and I might just be able to take this chance to have a breakthrough. You guys might be young, but you must grasp this chance as well. He saw everyone looking somewhat puzzled and said solemnly, since ancient times, heroes are born from the battlefield. The more chaotic the world becomes, the easier it is to improve. Why is that so? This is because when the strong practitioners clash, their philosophies collide and all kinds of divine arts, paths and skills would emerge, broadening one's horizons, raising their knowledge and experience. The pressure from strong practitioners, pressure from life and death, would push ourselves forward with acute determination, continuing to improve. For example, the ghost transferring god dispatching runes command of your great mountain sect, who would execute this kind of spell in times of peace. The more chaotic it gets, the more chances they would be able to be executed, only then would one improve. Chen Wanyan and the rest felt that his words were very logical. This time, ghost transferring god dispatching runes command, this kind of neglected spells had really broadened their horizons. After Great Mountain Sect was exterminated, their remnant disciples could actually still summon a devil god to assist in battle. How astonishing was the battle prowess of that devil god! A mere unremarkable spell could actually give forth to such an astonishing power, truly shaking them. In addition to that, Soul Guide was also an unremarkable spell which didn't have much power. When they saw this kind of spell in floor of heavenly records, they would usually throw them aside and not further study them. In terms of the power of spells, there were thousands of spells in floor of heavenly records that would surpass these two unremarkable spells. However, it was a low-level spell like Soul Guide that had changed the situation of the entire war just like that, causing a border commander like Yu Yuan Chuyu to suffer a huge setback, making it difficult to protect Liz Hu. Soul Guide and Ghost Transferring God Dispatching Runes command absolutely had no power, but by using these spells at the right situation, the power this kind of neglected spells could unleash would far surpass the power of a magnificent army with thousands of men and horses. This officer Lin Ding may be the opposing force, but his experience surpassed them. This also stressed them. Since Officer Lin Ding's experience and strength much higher than theirs, if he discovered any tiny hints, they would probably die miserably. Furthermore, even if Officer Lin Ding couldn't find any flaw with them, they would still die if they couldn't summon the Devil God when they reached Heaven Wave City. Even if they summoned the Devil God, which would massacre the army of eternal peace, they would still have to die when they returned to the capital city. No matter how they looked at it, it was a sure death ending. If we could attack him mercilessly altogether, will we be able to get rid of this great expert? Qin Mu calculated secretly and felt his victory was uncertain. Unless he could make the Dragon Qilin make a move, however, with the Dragon Qilin's temperament of always resigning himself to adversity, it would probably be hard to make him put his life on the line. We can get rid of 13 divine arts practitioners, so why can't we deal with an expert of 7 stars realm? Qin Mu's gaze wavered. They walked several miles forward and they suddenly heard yells coming over. A band of bandits came slaughtering over, and these bandits weren't weak at all. The head of the bandits was a divine arts practitioner, while the others were martial arts practitioners. Everyone was lusting to kill when Officer Lin Ding smiled. Don't worry. They are merely some vermins, let them come. Those bandits slaughtered over, and Officer Lin Ding only raised a hand and unleashed a mudra. With the thunder in palm bursting forth, a loud boom sounded out with a flash of white light, exploding the bodies of the dozens of bandits. Even the divine arts practitioner also exploded on the spot and died. Thunder in palm of the battle technique school. Qin Mu's heart leaped and instantly felt a thorny problem in his hand. Against strong practitioners of battle technique school, sneak attack was completely useless. They were all martial arts practitioners of 5 elements realm, therefore if they jumped on him, they would at most be scratching Officer Lin Ding's back and wouldn't be able to hurt him. With anxiousness in their hearts, they could only follow Officer Lin Ding towards Heaven Wave City. Qin Mu asked, General Lin Ding, may I ask what's the background of General Xiaoyi? Officer Lin Ding revealed an expression of admiration and said, General Xiaoyi is the Crown Prince of Justice Exist Country, and after Justice Exist Country was annexed, the Emperor was conferred as king with a different surname, while General Xiaoyi was conferred as Prince Xiaoyi. Now that Imperial Preceptor is throwing the skills in this world into disorder, this is for the path of the devil. This is a chance for General Xiaoyi, and he might just be able to rebuild his empire. Heaven Wave City is right ahead. In front of them, there was an unbroken chain of mountain peak beside the shore of surging river. The mountains forced surging river to go around them, and Heaven Wave City was building on the mountains that cut into surging river. Below was sheer cliffs and precipitous rock faces, which caused surging river to become more urgent here. Whenever the towering waves slapped onto the cliffs, they would give off world-shaking bangs. The waves which were shattered then rose high into the sky, as if there were countless of white jade pearls falling from the white clouds in the sky. Waves slapping the clouds right up to heaven, this was how Heaven Wave City came about. At this moment, there were soldiers of the rebel army everywhere in Heaven Wave City, which were looking at the army of Eternal Peace Empire across the river, holding on to their weapons and waiting for the time to make their move. Officer Lin Ding brought them to Heaven Wave City and said, the person guarding this place is an existence of the cult master level, the Dragon King of Dragon Rider sect. You must have heard him before, right? Even though the ability of the Dragon King isn't that high, he had raised a flood dragon, and this flood dragon is powerful. It can kill strong practitioners of life and death realm without a problem. That's the son of the Dragon King in front, Long Jianan. The general keeping watch was a pretty and flirtatious male wearing a brightly colored gown. There was heavy makeup on his face and looked very provoking to the eyes. It was the young sect master of Dragon Rider sect, Long Jianan. Officer Lin Ding brought Qin Mu forward to make some inquiries. Long Jianan exchanged greeting with him and was slightly stunned when he suddenly saw Qin Mu. This person looks familiar. Qin Mu felt alarmed in his heart and lowered his head to greet. When he entered the capital city for the first time, he had taken the ship that was heading towards the capital city with Wei Yong from River Tomb. Long Jianan had controlled a huge snake to fly in mid-air and killed everyone on the ship, leaving only him and Wei Yong escaping for their lives. In the hurry, Long Jianan may have seen his face before. These few are the disciples of Great Mountain Sect. Officer Lin Ding introduced. They summoned a devil god in Deer County, thus General Xiaoyi had wanted them to cast their spells here in Heaven Wave City, to summon a devil god to assist us in the battle. Long Jianan couldn't remember where he had met Qin Mu before, but her eyes lit up and she chuckled. Summoning the devil god. Well, this is interesting. What magical artifact do you guys need? I'll prepare them for you. Qin Mu immediately said, we only need a white bone sacrificial altar that's 13 by 13 yards wide. It would have to be constructed using bones and the platform of the altar would have to be laid out with skulls. The eye sockets of the skulls must be facing upwards and cannot be sloppy. How troublesome. Long Jianan smiled. In times of chaos, corpses are plentiful. Wait a moment, I'll order people to prepare the sacrificial altar. If the bones aren't enough, we'll kill some people to make up for it. The lives of Heaven Wave City's people are worthless. Qin Mu said, we are executing a secret art so we can't be disturbed, therefore could General Long. Long Jianan gave him coquettish glances, and Qin Mu felt goosebumps popping up. Long Jianan smiled, I understand, you can be at ease. I'll station the soldiers outside of the sacrificial altar. However, if you can't summon the devil god and make a fool out of me, I'll be sure to violate you thoroughly. Chen Wanyan, Yun Qiu and Wolf Slave felt their hairs standing on ends. On the other hand, Cai Yunxiang and Yu Qinghong still felt normal. Not long after, Long Jianan had already ordered his subordinates to build a white bone sacrificial altar in Heaven Wave City. This altar was situated in the city lord's manor. Long Jianan dismissed the soldiers and made them station outside, so they couldn't observe Qin Mu and the rest casting their spells. Qin Mu looked around and saw over 100 soldiers stationed outside, and it was pretty impossible for them to leave. What should we do? On the sacrificial altar, everyone looked at Qin Mu. Chen Wanyan said with a low voice, we're now deep in the enemy's territory, Senior Uncle Qin, you'll make the call. He finally changed and called Qin Mu Senior Uncle. Even though Yun Qiu and Yu Qinghong were bewildered, they didn't probe. Qin Mu said solemnly, of course we cast spells to summon the devil, inviting the devil god over. Yun Qiu jumped in shock and cried out, we have not learned the spells of Great Mountain Sect before. How do we summon the devil god? I've learned before. Qin Mu carried the devil god's sculpture over and placed it on the sacrificial altar. He then stabbed the white banner at the four corners and said, I'll be the one summoning and dispatch this devil god over. Great Mountain Sect requires 13 people to execute this spell, but I feel I can do it alone as well, although it would be slightly troublesome. Yun Qiu said with hesitation, our whole family would be hung if we summon a devil god to massacre Eternal Peace Empire's army. Don't worry, there should definitely be some trick to summon the devil god. They won't let the devil god go on a rampage, otherwise the people summoning the devil god would have died as well. Qin Mu's gaze wavered and he spat out a murky breath. If we summon the devil god over and make him attack Heaven Wave City, I think we can escape while chaos ensues. You guys guard the surroundings and be careful of any movements, I'll cast the spell. Everyone immediately stood guard around the sacrificial altar. Qin Mu took out the talisman treasure, and took a look at the runes on the 1024 surfaces, memorizing them by heart. He then looked at the runes on the devil god's sculpture, comparing them one by one before muttering to himself irresolutely, and beginning to cast the spell. His vital chi burst forth, and his vital chi threads raised the 13 talisman treasures up in mid-air, surrounding the devil god's sculpture. An obscure and ancient language sounded out from his nasal cavity, and his oral cavity, as his vital chi started to push the talisman treasures to transform, lighting up the runes on the talisman treasures one after another. The runes then shone onto the devil god's sculpture, lighting up the runes that were imprinted around the sculpture of the devil god. Chen Wanyan and the rest were bewildered. The language coming out from Qin Mu's mouth was not the language they normally spoke. It was slightly similar to the language Great Mountain sect gave off when they were summoning the devil, but it seemed to be even more profound. "It's the devil language," Cai Yunxiang said in a low voice. The runes of this devil god's sculpture lit up one by one. Controlling 13 talisman treasures required one to memorize over 1,000 runes and their arrangement. Even though Qin Mu had not yet mastered computational canon of supreme mystery, the memory had already improved by leaps and bounds, thus he could control them calmly. An hour later, more than half of the runes on this devil god's sculpture had already been lighted up by him. At the same time, when he was chanting devil language, he felt that he had gradually made a connection with a being from another dark world in the depths of space and time through this sculpture. And at this moment, over 10 Taoists brought another devil god sculpture and hurried to Heaven Wave City. When Officer Lin Ding saw these Taoists, he immediately welcomed them with a smile. "You guys from Great Mountain sect had come just right. Your junior brothers and junior sisters are currently summoning the devil in the city. It's been quite some time." That Great Mountain sect's Taoist in the lead was astonished. Junior brother and junior sisters. This general might not know that the disciples of our Great Mountain sect were split into 2 groups to Deer County so as to invite the gods over. Luckily, we have succeeded in inviting a devil god over, however, the other group of disciples has all been murdered. The devil god's sculpture and talisman treasures were robbed, as well as their clothes. Officer Lin Ding's expression changed hugely and he cried out, "If those that are summoning the devil now aren't the disciples of your Great Mountain sect, then who could they be?" That Taoist's eyes lighted up as he heard the faint chanting coming from the city lord's manor and said coldly, "I would also like to know who they are." "This is bad. The person summoning the devil has already made a connection with the devil god in the devil realm. Let us hurry over." Lin Ding's eyes twitched irregularly as he hurriedly rushed towards the direction of the city lord's manor while shouting sternly, "Young sect master, quickly give the order to execute those demons in the city lord's manor." In the city lord's manor, Qin Mu felt his consciousness entering deep into another world through this devil god sculpture, and his consciousness traveled throughout this darkness, before stopping suddenly. In front of him was a boundless space and time of darkness. Next, a humongous eye which was filled with scarlet-red flames opened up in the darkness. In front of this eye, he was minute like a speck of dust. On Qin Mu's left, another humongous eye opened up and after that, another eye opened up above these 2 eyes. The pupil of the third eye contracted, and its gaze slowly moved before landing on his body. "Weakling, you are summoning me, summoning the Juqian devil king that rules the borderless territory of Juqian." Those 3 eyes gradually rose into the sky and went further and further away from Qin Mu's consciousness, however, they were still incomparably huge. Only now did Qin Mu notice there was still light beside his body, and he was like a lamp in the darkness. He looked at himself standing on the altar. The altar gave off a white glow and looked incomparably minute in the darkness, looking insignificant. The altar and he on the altar seemed to have come to another world. "You are summoning my strength." A voice resonated out from the center of the 3 eyes, far and high up. The voice bombarded his consciousness and trembling back and forth, "You are summoning me to your world, to massacre, to battle." Qin Mu said humbly, "O the great Juqian devil king, I pray for your descent. I shall sacrifice to you thousands of powerful lives, all the divine arts practitioners of Heaven Wave City." The 3 eyes suddenly burst into flames and an earth-shaking voice resonated out, "As you wish." The sacrificial altar below Qin Mu's feet suddenly lighted up and the rays spread out in all directions. In an instant, the entire Heaven Wave City appeared in the darkness. Qin Mu looked around and his heart pounded. The entire Heaven Wave City was under his eyes and all the people in Heaven Wave City were in his eyes. Every action and what they were wearing were all in his eyes, down to the very last detail. Following that, human figures started to disappear one after another from the city, and only the divine arts practitioners were left in the city. Those that had disappeared from the city were martial arts practitioners that had yet reached Six Directions realm and the ordinary people. These people didn't really disappear from Heaven Wave City, and instead, this Juqian Devil King was confirming his sacrifices. Qin Mu hurriedly pointed to the dragon Qilin beside the altar and said, "This dragon Qilin isn't part of the sacrifices offered to the great Juqian Devil King." "Shut up." An eerie and sinister voice came out from the back of those three eyes. Qin Mu saw another three more huge eyes spinning over behind these three eyes. "You have no rights to command Juqian Devil King. I'll borrow your consciousness to descend onto this city." Qin Mu suddenly felt his body becoming stiff, and was unable to move as an incomparably terrifying strength surged over from another world. Rumble. Violent tremors traveled from the surroundings of the sacrificial altars. Blood light soared into the sky, reaching several hundred yards, and as Qin Mu bathed in the blood light, he could feel a terrifying strength descending onto this world through his consciousness, and surging towards the body of the devil god sculpture. The runes on the surface of the devil god's sculpture were like weird eyes frantically absorbing the energy surging over from another world. The surface of the devil god's sculpture cracked continuously, and the wood chips exploded out in all directions. This devil god's sculpture became larger and larger as dense light leaked out from the cracked lines. Flesh could be faintly seen growing in the insides of the devil god's sculpture, which was made from wood. In a blink of an eye, the devil god sculpture on the altar had grown dozens of yards tall, and was still continuing to grow. Qin Mu only felt his consciousness splitting apart. Not only had the energy of Juqian Devil King descended, Juqian Devil King's consciousness had also come bombarding over. That was a sinister, terrifying and irritable consciousness. This made Qin Mu's consciousness became insignificant in front of this terrifying consciousness, as if he could be crushed any moment. The nature of this Devil King was extremely violent, and he didn't care whether Qin Mu live or die. He just transferred his consciousness and strength from a space and time far away, pouring them into the devil god sculpture. The devil god sculpture was still expanding and becoming bigger. Thus all the wood had already shattered and turned into a body of flesh. Catcher, catcher. There were rolling thunders all around the altar as numerous bolts of lightning struck here and there, forcing Chen Wanyan and the rest to move back continuously. The dragon Qilin and Hu Linga were moving back continuously as well. The violent aura of that devil god's sculpture forced the dragon Qilin unable to have his footing. Beneath the feet of the devil god sculpture, Qin Mu's body was trembling as a wound opened up at the heart of his brows. Fizzling sparks shot out from the heart of his brows and shone on the devil god sculpture. Within the sparks was the consciousness of the Juqian Devil King. His consciousness was so strong that he nearly destroyed Qin Mu's consciousness. Qin Mu's forehead was non-stop bleeding and there were even smells of fresh blood burning. He couldn't move at all. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth and forcefully executed Overlord Body 3 elixir technique to protect his consciousness. His train of thoughts had already stopped, but luckily for him, the pressure on him lessened considerably when Overlord Body 3 elixir technique started circulating. Suddenly, Qin Mu felt the circulation of Overlord Body 3 elixir technique had added some stuff into his own body. The sounds of slaughter shook the heaven as the spirit weapons bombarded over like clouds, causing him unable to ponder over it. Sounds of tremors rang beside his ear as the devil god's sculpture placed down that raised leg, collapsing countless of buildings in the city lord's manor from the vibrations. Before the spirit weapons could even reach close, they were all blown up into pieces. Devil withdraw command. Several Taoists rushed in from outside, and when the Daoist in lead saw this sight, his eyes couldn't help opening wide from anger. The dozen and more Taoists hurriedly patted the rune pouches on their waists, causing countless of yellow joss paper to fly out from the rune pouch. Written on these yellow joss papers were weird runes that were different from ghost transferring God dispatching runes command. The countless of yellow joss paper linked with each other and formed a huge yellow screen. The countless of runes on the yellow joss papers could actually link one another from head to tail, forming an incomparably huge and complicated character. The secret arts of Great Mountain Sect, Devil Withdraw Command. About a dozen of Taoists of Great Mountain Sect chanted in chorus and pushed their vital chi to activate this complicated character on the yellow screen. Devil Withdraw Command lighted up and shone towards Juqian Devil King. Just as Devil Withdraw Command shone onto the body of Juqian Devil King, the eyes of Juqian Devil King opened up one by one and a bolt of lightning shot out from his gaze, tearing Devil Withdraw Command into pieces. About a dozen of Taoists under Devil Withdraw Command was also shone by his gaze and they turned into ashes. However, as Devil Withdraw Command shone onto Juqian Devil King's body, Qin Mu instantly felt the heart of his brows turning light suddenly, and as if relieved of a heavy load. He regained control of his body and hurriedly retreated. There were still some puzzles in his heart. This devil god that he had summoned seemed to be slightly different. He didn't listen to him at all. He was extremely cruel and didn't care whether he lived or died at all. This devil god that he had summoned out was probably no ordinary devil god. Let us retreat. Qin Mu rapidly came to the others and shouted, "Big dragon, show your true form and bring us out of the city." The dragon Qilin gave a roar and heat waves instantly swept out, blowing Yu Qinghong and Yun Qiu away. Chen Wanyan and the wolf slave lost their footing and moved back a few steps, while Sai Yunxiang's body just swayed and didn't move back at all. The dragon Qilin's body expanded and grew larger, with true fire blazing around his body. He instantly turned into a huge creature that was over 400 feet long. His height was even taller than the city tower, and as his body moved, the air around him exploded continuously from being compressed. Qin Mu flew and came to Yu Qinghong and Yun Qiu's side in a flash to grab the both of them. With his fleeting footsteps, he came to the dragon Qilin's side and jumped up on the dragon Qilin's back. Chen Wanyan and Sai Yunxiang also jumped up and Qin Mu shouted, "Run! Run as fast as possible!" Fire clouds grew under the feet of the dragon Qilin and rose into the sky. At this moment, they heard Juqian Devil King's voice coming from their back, vibrating the air, "Run! Where to? Finally, someone has summoned me. I had not imparted out the spells of Juqian in vain. I'll construct a sacrificial altar here, and build a passage to summon my true body, to summon the people of my Juqian. Ha ha ha, you will all be the skeletons on my sacrificial altar." His huge hand came grabbing over and the air in the surrounding was almost solidified, freezing the dragon Qilin, which was running in the air. The dragon Qilin pushed his magic power, and the flame clouds raged, yet he was unable to move at all. As this Juqian Devil King was about to grab hold of them, a dragon roar suddenly sounded out. A middle-aged man rode a flood dragon and pounced over viciously. With its body coiled around the Juqian Devil King, the flood dragon spew out lightning and fire at the face of Juqian Devil King. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man stood on the head of the flood dragon, stabbing the head of Juqian Devil King with the sword, lights flashing in his hand. Qin Mu and the rest were free from the constraints, and the dragon Qilin immediately rose into the sky, rushing out of the city. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief. The Dragon King of Dragon Rider Sect is here. At this moment, a miserable cry sounded out. The cult master level flood dragon was actually pulled apart forcefully by the Juqian Devil King, whose punch made both the flood dragon and the Dragon King of Dragon Rider Sect spat blood and fell back. Ra! The four faces of Juqian Devil King opened their mouths and shouted with all their might. The earth-shaking sound waves surged forth, causing countless of people to bleed from all their orifices. The dragon Chilean's body also swayed from the roars, and suddenly all 12 eyes of Juqian, Devil King, lighted up brightly. With bolts of lightning interweaving each other, they swept over from all directions, slicing through countless of experts in Heaven Wave City that were pouncing over. The dragon Chilean was also hit in his butt and snarled in pain, falling from the sky. Luckily for him, his skin was thick, thus he wasn't killed by Juqian Devil King's gaze. The dragon Chilean landed in the city, and his body shrank as he stumbled. Qin Mu and the rest hurriedly came down from his back only to see Juqian, Devil King, sweeping all the experts in the city lord's manor while chuckling. I was the one who had imparted ghost transferring god dispatching runes command. You weaklings wouldn't have thought of it. Am I right? I will use your corpses to construct a huge sacrificial altar to let my true body to descend. The people of my Juqian shall descend into this world. Yu Qinghong was dazed and muttered, Academician, what kind of devil have you summoned? Qin Mu was also a little dumbstruck. I don't know either. Let us leave quickly, Long Jianan is coming over. This video will end here.